Hello and welcome back to Nobby on Cars at a public charger with the new Audi Q6. Now, if you're curious about this car, I filmed it in Bilbao earlier on in the year, so you can watch back that full normal review if that's what you want to call it. I'll leave a link in the description down below, or you can catch a link to it at the end of this video. But if you are interested in this car, this video will also be of relevance to you because promises great things from this car. 800 volt architecture. It can bank the way the batteries work, so it can split the charging between 400 and 400, and you can charge up to 125 kilowatts simultaneously. It'll do about 250 kilowatt charging if you find the right type of charger. And this car should be more efficient than something like the outgoing Audi Q8, for example. And what is interesting, Audi have recently looked at production of the Audi Q8 and the factory where they're produced, because I think the Audi Q6 could probably wipe the Q8's eye in lots of ways. And first of all, it doesn't really look that different for starters. Like, there is a new front on the car, the split headlight unit is different, the grille is slightly different, some of the lower parts, the bumper, an active air curtain down here, things like that. And you know, the interior is definitely a little bit different because we have this new screen inside the car. But really from the side especially, I mean, a quick glance, you would wonder, is this the Q8 or is it the Q6? There's two charging ports. One is just for AC, which is 11 kilowatt on this side of the car. But then if you walk around to the other side of the vehicle, or the driver's side if you're watching this in a left-hand drive country, you've got another charger. And that, my friends, is where the magic happens. So this is where you'll hook up your CCS, your faster charging speeds. Really, you shouldn't be here for very long because of some of the capabilities of this car. I do find these charging flaps, which are electronic, the way they come out, they take a long time to open. So I charged this car the other night at Carrick Mines, which has 200 kilowatt chargers, and this car really did fairly decent speeds, and the battery was at about 30%, so it still didn't give me the full output of 200. But the charging curve did last for a fairly decent amount of time, as you can see here in the video clips I cut of it. And if you're not familiar, what is a charging curve? It's basically how long the car will charge at a consistent rate throughout the charging process of the battery. And a lot of car manufacturers will give you a really high speed, but then they don't actually maintain that speed for very long. So it was pretty decent to see the Q6 hang on to fast charging speeds for the duration of my stay. Now, this charge I'm using this morning is 100 kilowatt max, so it's using it about 95 kilowatt is the charging speed that the Q6 is achieving right now. So charging capabilities seems pretty good, and it does do what it says on the tin. But efficiency wise, is the Q6 as efficient or better than something like the Q8? And that's something I've had a bit more time to get to grips with this week when I've been driving the car. No issues this week with the seats. They've been really comfortable and supportive. Nice bit of S-line embossed and perforated leatherette on the headrest, so the attention to detail is good. Something else that got a lot of coverage at the launch was this separate screen for the passenger. It does get quite warm to the touch, and I remember at the launch things like Prime was in the menu here, so it probably is a subscription or something you need to set up to. It was a little bit more basic here, but you do get functions like the nav and stuff, so you can actually input your destination as a passenger. It possibly is a little bit old looking then compared to this curved screen, which goes right the way across and then into the driver instrument part of the Q6, which all feels really nice. Another example here of what I mean by the charging curve. So 100 kilowatt charger, you'll never quite get the full output of the charger. It's not car specific, but what is impressive about this is state of charge is at 61%, and I'm still getting a really high speed. So we're at 62% state of charge, but we're still getting 95 kilowatt. And that's the really important stuff when you're buying a car, because anyone can claim fast charging speeds, but actually in reality, it's when you're sitting at a charger and you find out, well, they over-deliver on that promise. Because ultimately, what that means for you, if you rely on the public network a lot, is less time sitting around, But again, it's very much car dependent and specific, but Audi seem to be delivering on their promise here. Something else I did notice on the test of the car, and it didn't bother me too much, but again, it was only a couple of days living with the Q6. Now I've had it for a week, it is a bit annoying. And it's this control panel area. Because this is nice and it works and it's a bit hapticky, but I don't have an issue with that. But when you open this door, this is where you traditionally grab the handle to close it, but there's no groove behind here. So you end up having to pull this part of the car to shut the door. Now, it might seem like a minor thing, but the passenger side, as you can see, has a normal handle. So it's much easier to close that door than the driver's door. So you brought your shiny new Q6 e-tron home, and you're wondering, is it going to be efficient? Well, there's a couple of caveats that I need to mention. First of all, a car this size with this much power is always going to be a little bit thirsty. We are talking 285 kilowatt of output in an all-wheel drive, not exactly aerodynamic vehicle. Now, there is no doubt when you floor it, huge surge of power that shoves you into the back of your seat is always there, that instant torque that you get with an EV. There is a little bit of tire noise over the car, and I'm on good road surface here, but you really do have to be at significant motorway speeds to get huge interference from these A-pillars from wind noise. And because this car has radar, cruise and travel assist, and it will gently steer the car for you on longer journeys, it is going to be a fairly relaxing car to drive. Almost 2,000 kilometers, this car has achieved 22.1 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometer. Now, the gross size battery of this car is 100 kilowatt hour. So you'd in theory be over the 400 kilometer mark in this car, but then you've got to remember the usable part is about 91 kilowatt hour, so there's a buffer there that you don't always get to use. Now, at an 80% state of charge, it's displaying 326 kilometers, but that really depends on many things, including the way you're driving the car this instant. Because if you go into a motorway, that will drop. If you go into town and you're just barely using the power, that will probably increase. So it's a kind of dynamic figure. In terms of software, only issues I had this week were in the port tunnel, weirdly, where I don't know if there was an issue with the sensor, but it was just chucking up these errors to do with the cruise control. Now, it still worked. It was talking about sensors as opposed to the actual radar cruise. Still follow the speed signs. Nonetheless, you don't really want to see errors flashing up on your car that you've just spent 80 grand on. Despite its weight, and you'll know this car is a heavy vehicle, particularly in corners, like the steering sometimes feels like it's reacting in a different capacity to the chassis of the car. There's a lot of weight to move around. Again, it's not a sporty SUV, it's a luxury SUV. It's comfortable. It's got a lovely, comfortable suspension. But you're not driving an RS6 here. People will sometimes throw up the reason for not getting an electric car is, the public network. And it is true, it's not perfect at all. We have an electric car in our house as the family car, so it's probably never going to see a public charger, and the convenience of just plugging it in at night and waking up the next day and it's charged is there all day long. But now more than ever, and I'm conscious that possibly some business users, like people maybe with company car fleets and stuff like that, might be considering this car. Circle K are just one example, rolling out really, really fast chargers in Ireland now. And the thing about it is, yes, if you're traveling the country, you're going to rely on the public network to use this car, as big and all as the battery is, and the claimed range of 600 kilometers. It's never going to see 600 kilometers. But if you are using the faster charging network, then this car is well able to take advantage of it. So it's one of the cars that I wouldn't say every electric vehicle is going to be happy with the public charging system that we have in Ireland, But if you use Ionity or Circle K or even some of the faster e-car network chargers, then this Audi will make your life easy, because you're not going to be sitting at them for 45 minutes because you just don't need it. And the future proofing that's gone in terms of charging into this car, that's one of the reasons it makes it, you know, an attractive option compared to some of the other EVs, even in the Audi range, because the technology has jumped on again in the Q6. An SUV of this size is never going to be the most aerodynamic vehicle either. But looking at the figures that I've been able to achieve in the drive at about 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, the Q8 was around 28, 29. And this is the all-wheel drive version. So when the single motor version arrives, that will be more efficient again. And I suppose any type of expensive Audi, whether it's fueled by petrol or diesel, it's never really going to be that economical, because you're paying for all this power, and to have all that power on tap under your right foot comes at an efficiency price. And that said, it is certainly better than previous versions of e-trons that I've tested on the channel. I think it's color dependent. This color is kind of meh. It's certainly the darker color that we had on test. The gray looks, I mean, it's a classic Audi color. It's around a long time, but I still think it looks really, really cool. The RS version is a stonking car to drive. Again, you can watch that review if you click through the other Q6 e-tron videos on the channel. So it's definitely better than it was. It's very comfortable. It feels luxurious. It's got fast charging, and it's a little bit more efficient than what we've seen before. So the time is now here if you want a large SUV that's also electric. I don't think you'll ever see this creep into the 17, 18 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers efficiency range. I mean, driving in favorable temperatures and all the rest of it for the last week. So that's kind of where the land lies with efficiency in the Q6. But if you want a large, comfortable electric SUV, then it's one for the short lifts, as long as you can deal with the €81,000 price tag for the entry-level version of the car. And that is a lot of money. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is it as efficient as you thought it might be, or is it worse? And remember, that full review from Bilbao, where the weather is just a little bit warmer, is at the end of this video also. Thanks for coming with me today on this efficiency review of the Q6 e-tron.